Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today I am with sales, not trainer, sales coach extraordinaire, Chuck Thokey. As you may be aware, listening to this podcast, I talk about him all the time. Some people have accused me of having a weird man crush on him. Not true. Just think he's really good at what he does. And actually met him in person for the first time last week at the Top 500 event in Las Vegas. We had a chance to sit down for about an hour and talk through a bunch of different kinds of things and asked him if he'd come on the podcast because there was some really good stuff. I wish I had a recorder there, but I didn't. So here we are today. Chuck, welcome to the podcast again.
Yes, thanks, Rich. This is always it's definitely, one of my favorites to be on, not just because I'm on it right now, but yeah, the information that you guys provide on these podcasts are just second to none.
Thank
It's
you for
not
that. I
just the
appreciate
that
it.
you typically hear.
And it's going to be third to none or fourth to none, whatever's better than second to none, because there's some really good stuff here. In fact, I'm going to make a little soft announcement right now, not a hard announcement, but a soft one. As 2025 rolls around, we're going to be doing some stuff with Top Rep and Chuck's teams over there. Because I'm instituting something called the lead conversion engine. You've heard me talk about that on the podcast. Here it is again. And a big part of converting your leads is, your sales team actually converting the leads into sales. So there's going to be some top rep stuff that you guys will be hearing from. That being said, Chuck, let's jump into it here. You're a busy man. How much time do you spend on the road? It's a lot.
It's a lot. Probably about 60% of my time, if not closer to 70% of my time is in the air.
In the air. So
Between
what's your
flights.
preferred airline?
Delta all
Delta.
day.
Okay. Are you
Yeah.
Diamond Medallion?
I am. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know what?
Okay.
What's funny is I tried so hard to get to Diamond because they let you on the plane first. And as soon as I got there, they don't let you on the plane first anymore.
Yeah, but they still almost let you on the plane first. I'm Diamond Medallion, have been for a few years now, and it's fantastic and fully recommend Delta. Used to live in Dallas. It was an American hub. Not so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is not what we're here to talk about. I want to talk about the difference between trainers and coaches because, I've let it slip a couple times. I've called you a sales training organization, and you're like very gracious, like, no, that's not exactly the right way to phrase that. So, what is the difference? And talk me through it.
So here's the difference between trainers and coaches is the trainers have their system and their system is their way or the highway. They're going to patent their system, they're going to put their name all over the system, they're going to put it into your organization and shove everything else out, and they're going to train you on that system. And the problem with that is that if you can imagine me coming into your organization, you already have somebody's system. I don't care if it's Yoho, Grasso, any of them. And I says, okay, we're going to move all that out. This is going to be the brand new system. What do you think your sales reps are going to do? I mean, it's going to be an upheaval. You're like, another one? Really? And they get really upset. And I know this because I ran some of the biggest organizations, or at least some of the biggest teams in the country myself. And every time we wanted to change something, you couldn't just bring something special in and say, okay, we're going to move this one over here. We're going to put this technique in here. No, you had to move the entire system out and put their system in, and it had to be named for their system. And so that's a trainer. And I'm not saying it's bad. Here's the thing that we need to understand is that an organization that really brings value has a mix of training and coaching, which is not easy to come by. Now, everybody will say that that's what they have, but the other side of the stick is coaching. And coaching is not, if you haven't been professionally coached, it's hard to understand what coaching really is. If you've been coached many times, you're in the middle of coaching. If you haven't had that epiphany yet, you wonder what you're paying for, because this person is asking you questions about what it is you're doing and how you should be doing it. And it's like, well, I'm coming up with all these answers. Ah, ha, ha. Because now if I'm coming up with the answers, I'm gonna learn twice as fast. And so professional coaches know how to ask professional questions.
Is that similar to a diagnosis process?
It really kind of is. Because you already know what you're supposed to do. We will train and we'll bring in a foundation as needed for the organizations that don't have foundations. But if you already have a foundation, if we find out that you have a great company, I'm going to start asking you a series of questions throughout the coaching because I know you already know the answers. And I'm going to pull those answers out of you, and you're going to get it. You're going to understand it. You're going to put it in place twice as fast. So when people say, "Hey, how do a lot of these organizations that come into Top Rep, how do they move up so quickly?" It's because we coach them. We don't necessarily always train them.
Okay,
Because if I can
so
coach you, you're going to understand it faster.
so it brings up a question. You mentioned a few trainers earlier, Yoho, Grasso, folks like that, and I
Mhm.
believe you come from a Grasso background, if I'm not
I do.
mistaken.
Yeah,
Okay,
Rick was one of
so
my trainers. Yeah.
do most of these companies that you go in and work with, do they already have a pre-existing foundational system in place? And if not, are you going to come in and put your own version in?
So many of them do already have something. They have a training system that they got from when they were selling, and then they pulled that one in, or they had another trainer come in and put it there, and they're just not being as successful as they could. Now they're being more successful than if they just didn't have it at all. We understand that, but they're not being as successful as they could be with that training system because they were never really taught how to do the training system, how to implement it. They know it, they can teach it, but they really don't understand how to put it onto their people. They put videos in front of their people, they put books in front of their people and say, okay, why don't you go through this and then we'll discuss it later. And it just kind of goes flat. It's like hiring somebody and saying, "Hey, I need somebody that's a real go-getter, someone that is really self-motivated." Hey, we all have unicorns, I get it, but not everybody's that type of unicorn. So
Okay, so what percentage of clients that you work with, and ballpark this is fine, I don't need it to the third decimal point, but what percentage have what you would consider a good solid foundational system that you're going to come in and train on, uh, excuse me, coach on? See, I'm getting the words wrong already. Coach on versus having to come in and install a system. Is it most of them or less than most of them? What is it?
I'll tell you, it's you're looking right around that 50-60% will have a foundation there, and it's just not managed correctly. It's not trained correctly, and there's no expectations in it. It's like there's books are on the bookcase, and man, they got a lot of dust on them.
Well, here's why I'm asking this question in 13 different ways, and I really want to get to the
Yep.
end of it because I want people listening to this podcast to hear loud and clear. Look, if you've got your existing system, this top rep, Chuck's organization, top rep is still going to add value without asking you to replace and start over from scratch. Now, if you don't have that foundational system in place, great. Then you'll come in and I'm tell me
Yep.
about that. You'll install a system. Is it like a 10-step type system or something?
We do have a 9-step system. And people
Nine.
ask me all the time, like, oh, is it that step system? Remember that the step system is only for competency. Once you start getting into that mastery stage and getting in going pro, the steps aren't as important as when they were when you were just learning to understand how to sell. If all you do is you come in and you're just taught how to ask a couple questions and show some products, you're not going to be successful. That's why we want to show them the step systems. And so a lot of the companies that we go into already have some sort of system in there. And what we want to do is find out how embedded is the system. We find out a lot of times the owner and the manager, man, they know it. The sales reps, they haven't seen it in 2 years. So they all kind of do their own thing. So we're going to come in and help them to understand that if you don't take control of your team and either put that system in or we can help put a system in, that it's just going to run amok. So we coach them based on what that team knows, what they already know, and what they need to know.
So here's a conclusion I'm drawing. It sounds
Yep.
like the real problem that you're helping organizations overcome is what I call, and others, I didn't coin this phrase, but it was called the curse of knowledge. Okay, the curse of knowledge is the stakeholder, maybe it's the owner of the company, the sales manager, somebody that's in charge of this sales team. They know how to sell. They've got a sales system. They're good at it. And then when they try to transfer this, here's what the curse of knowledge is as a definition. It's almost impossible to understand what it's like to not know the things that you know. So what happens is you give a watered down version of the training because all of the things that fill in the gaps, you're not actually conveying to that person. So here's a good example for you, Chuck. Have you ever heard of this before? It's a game called Tappers and Listeners.
No, I haven't heard that one.
Okay, here's how it works. So you get a big room. Let's say you're doing a training, and there's 100 people in the room, something like that. You say, okay, I'm going to tap a familiar song. So not like a pop song. It's not like something that you might not know. It's like something that 100% of Americans would know. And I'm going to tap it on my table. And what I need you to do is figure out what the song is. Okay, so let's play it right now. I'm going to play it with you. Okay, I'm going to be the tapper. You're going to be the listener.
Oh no. All right.
Now, here's what's interesting about this. When they ask the listeners to guess how how easy it's going to be to recognize the song, they all estimate that they'll get it. And then it turns out in real life it's like 4%. Okay. And I've actually done this. We're one-on-one here. So if you actually happen to be the 4% that gets it, it'll kind of ruin it, but I'll risk it here.
I
So I'm going
probably
to tap a
won't, but
song.
let's see.
Okay, ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
First of all, can you hear my taps?
No.
Can't hear the taps? How about now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try this. Maybe we can't hear it, but maybe people will hear it. So here we go. Ready?
I can't hear it.
All right, we'll try it this way.
I can't figure it out.
Okay. Now,
I'm even
here's
trying
why.
to do it in my own head.
So the song is God Bless America. All right, here we go again.
Okay.
Okay, so that you get it. And the idea is that as I'm tapping it, I'm hearing the full symphony orchestra in my head. Meanwhile, you're just getting a discombobulated set of taps, and you're like, I don't even know what that is. So this is what happens in all facets of life, in particularly in training. It becomes huge. And sorry to kind of hijack this conversation to go down that path, but I feel like this is what the real crux of the problem is. Like we have training, and I can just see the sales manager saying, "But we do the training, Chuck. We do, and we do a good job of it, and our people do know it." And meanwhile, they're over there tapping on the desk, and people are like, "Yeah, I don't really know what that is."
It's funny because just yesterday morning we had a client and he was really frustrated. You can tell. And he's like, "We're training him. We're doing it." And I'm like, here's the problem is that you're training the entire system when you need to train this part of the system until they get it right, and then you train this part of the system until they get it right, and you go all the way through. But you're right, because they're like, I'm doing it, I'm doing the thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, they're checking the box off, but they're not doing it effectively because the team's just not getting it.
Well, and again, I don't want to beat the dead horse, no pun intended. It's like I just see that the biggest objection to people wanting to engage with you is, "Hey,
Mhm.
Chuck, I'm sure you guys are great, but we've got this." And I just
Yeah,
don't think that people have got this.
they don't. If your close rate's under 40%, you don't got it, you know? And
Okay, that's an interesting gauntlet you just threw down. 40%, is that the line of demarcation in your opinion?
that's what we put out there, that if you're under 40%, now we also need to look at other factors. There's no doubt. There's variables, as there always is. But many times, if you're under that 40%, there's always something that you can be doing, or there's something that the sales reps aren't doing. We call it the lazy gap. That thing between 40 and 50% is called the lazy gap. And anything that, and then there's those people over top of that, that we call, those are the reasons why the customer won't buy, but this is, or can't buy, those the between 40 and 50%. Those are the reason why they won't buy. And that means that your sales rep didn't get in the attic. They didn't get into the access panel. They didn't, whatever the case may be, they got lazy and they thought they could sell the job doing half the work. And that's just human. And if we don't give out the proper expectations, and this is inside the coaching, is that we want them to understand what the expectations are, but most importantly is it's not about so much the accountability, because if I can work with my sales team and anybody in the organization for that matter and bring that level of discipline, you don't need accountability. Because if you have a bunch of disciplined people and that's what you bring in, and you hold them and we really they understand what's expected of them, because that's where discipline comes from, then the accountability piece becomes so easy. But until then, we put accountability be above the discipline, and we have a lot of sweat on our face. We're working too hard to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, where if we just switch that around and push the discipline and then bring the accountability, it's so much easier.
Now, I think you said something earlier, kind of dovetailing what you were just talking about just now. You said that a step system, I think you said, is to train base competency. Is that right?
That's what it's
And
for.
then the coaching is to get them to mastery. Is that a fair
Yes.
assessment?
So there's three levels there. You have competency, mastery, and then you go pro.
Okay, so this was kind of like apprentice, master craftsman, and then just, I guess, mega master craftsman.
That's right.
But I was just thinking about that because, th this is true in any domain, right? You've got to have lots of rules in place when people are beginners
Yes.
because they don't even know what to do, and it's hard for them to make decisions. There's a word I like to use in this to fill this gap. It's called wisdom. It's like wisdom is not having to follow rules. It's knowing what to do naturally based on whatever the current circumstance is and what's the best situation, what's the best thing to do for this circumstance. But, when children are small, they have to have a chore chart because they're too stupid to know to brush their teeth.
That's right.
Now, do you brush your teeth daily
I,
as an adult?
yes.
And the answer is yes, but if I quizzed you, I could probably find a time or two when you didn't actually brush your teeth. And I'd say
Oh, sure.
why, and there's probably some reason. You're on a hunting trip and you forgot your toothbrush or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you are an idiot. It means that you've got wisdom to know that it's probably fine.
Right.
Anyway, I love this stuff. So, uh, getting people to mastery, this is where the coaching really is going to come in handy, right?
Yes.
What does that look like? So you've got a team, they're doing pretty good at the basics. They've got their 9 step or their 10 step system. They're executing pretty well. What are you going to do to get them to that next level, up to the 40%, so that we can start worrying about filling the lazy gap? But we got to get to 40% first.
Right. So to get to that mastery, for one, we do bring and help the management understand what discipline really is. And then we help the team to understand what emotion is, because people don't buy because they don't believe you. It's not, people typically don't buy just because of price. Oh, that's too much. And then you find out they went with the next guy that came out and they're more expensive than you. So please tell me about how it's too much. So what we want them to understand is that they didn't buy because they don't believe you. So if you're just going to recite Hamlet, you're going to give them a script and they're going to recite it. That's competency. But if we can teach them the emotional intelligence of the sale, understanding what's going on across the table, but most importantly, what's going on right here. And we need to bring a certain tone level of our voice, how fast we talk, and then what's going on with our face, where we're going to put those pauses. So that's how we go into that mastery stage.
Okay. Okay. So they don't buy because they don't believe you. And I'm gonna throw that back at you, just slightly different words. They don't believe you enough to take the leap. Like maybe they got to hit like the 80% belief, on the scale, loading belief, and it gets up to like 70, and they're like, 75. They get up to like 80, and they're like, you got to get them over that hump. So what you're saying is the tone, the speed of what you say, what's on your face is what's going to seal the belief.
Right,
How do
right.
you train
You know,
that? How do you coach that?
so it's little pieces at a time, but you have to make sure before we will go to that point. And when we go in, we find out that some of the guys understand, or some of the team understands it, and some don't. We're going to make sure that the entire team understands their system that they're going to use, the selling system that they're going to use. And one to your point, when a lot of times when we come in, we're only going to fill the gaps. We're not looking to change your entire system. We're going to fill some gaps. We're going to make sure that they understand that. And then as a team, we're going to move into that mastery stage. But first, we have to know that they know the system. Just before I got on here with you, I was actually being sold by somebody. He wanted to sell me some software, and you can watch his eyes go. I says, he's reading a script to me right now. The guy doesn't even know his own content, and he's going to try and sell me something. And so that's where we are with sales today is we are very low in sales. This is why, we are in such big demand right now is because before COVID, we had a certain level of sales. Everybody had that understanding. But once COVID hit, it's like it all went out the window and it's we're all infants in sales again. We're just
Is that
trying to
because
figure it
everybody
out.
just was able to be an order taker during COVID? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, everybody had their checkbook, waving around outside their windows, and just all you got to do is go knock on their door and pick up the money. That's
Get there
how
first.
COVID seemed. Yeah, it was so easy. When somebody says, "Oh man, we killed it in COVID," everybody killed it in COVID. If you
Yeah.
didn't, then you suck. I mean, but we get that, we understand it. But now we're what we call BC, before COVID. We're back to where we have to sell, and everybody wants to blame the economy. Everybody wants to blame the election. Thank goodness that's about over. And we're back on track to understand how to sell again. And so we're going to fill the gaps and then help that team move into that mastery stage and help them to understand the emotional piece of what they do every day. And if you don't have somebody that goes out with you every now and then, if you don't have a system that records you and you can listen to how you sound like you're regurgitating a script. We can hear it. We have partnered with one of these. I don't know if you want me to mention their name, but
That's
we've
fine. Go
partnered with
ahead.
one of these. It's Rilla. We've partnered with Rilla, and so we've listened to thousands of Rilla recordings, and we've gotten so to the point now where it's like he's just regurgitating a script. You can tell it. I can guarantee that the homeowner can tell it.
Can the
And
AI pick
so
it out on Rilla? Can it say, sounds like he's reading the script?
I don't think that I've seen that on their Rilla assumptions, but
That'd be
we
hilarious.
can as humans we can pull it out really quick. And so we need to go back in and teach and work with that organization until they're all to that point where they can bring an emotional feel to the sale. People think that emotional feel is make them want it so bad that they feel like their house is going to fall. That's just fear-based sales. That's not emotional-based sales. Make them cry. That's not emotional based sales either. Emotional based sale or helping them with the emotion is bringing emotion yourself so that they feel that you care as much as they do about their situation.
The emotion, I'll try to summarize this. The emotion is trust.
Yes, it is.
That's what
It
you're
is.
trying to get them to feel.
We've all talked to somebody where you can tell that they aren't very genuine, that they're doing their job. They're just saying something to you, whether it's being sold to you, maybe it's a friend, and they're trying to comfort you, and you already know, you can tell that this friend of yours could care less about your problem, but they're supposed to care, so that's what they're going to try and do. But it's just not genuine. It's the same thing in sales.
Okay, so how do you train this across a large organization where you've got a huge variety of competencies and capabilities?
So when we get into bigger organizations, we will actually work with because it's usually not the sales team that should be worried about. It's the managers, the sales managers, the sales directors, whatever. That's typically where the issue sits. And it's not bad. It's not, we're not going to go in and say, these two guys, they need to be, get them out of here. It's that they haven't been trained. They feel like their job is to manage the herd. I'm always here. I'm going to answer my phone. Great. Because one of the biggest problems we have in management is getting a manager to actually answer their phone. So I'm glad that that's what you want to do. But the other part of this is we have to help you to understand, how are you going to work with your people? How are you going to train your people? How are you going to coach your people? And we need to help you to understand what that means and how to do it. And once we get through this, the managers of these larger organizations, and some of these organizations that we work with are in upwards of, five, $600 million. And we work with the manager and they're like, wow, we didn't have the process to help train these managers. All we did was make sure that they understood what their expectations were, which is really good because most organizations don't do that either.
This is train the trainers, so to speak.
We have to help them to understand how to train the trainers. And then the other part is where does the sales culture come in? Because it's drive, 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 drive. And if they can't be driven, get rid of them. And that the day of that is gone. It's if what you're going to do is drive them until they leave, then you're going to train some great sales professionals and put them into your competitors, if you will.
Is that a generational thing? Is it the younger generation doesn't like to be whipped like like a horse?
No, the older generation didn't like it either. It was just there wasn't anywhere else to go. And now there's so many different organizations, and to tell you the truth, many of the smaller organizations pay better anyway. So that's another big thing that we see is that these smaller organizations need them more and are willing to pay more for these salesmen. And so they're seeing that, they're like, hey, I'm well trained and I think I can get treated better. So these larger organizations need to just cool off and learn how to coach their people and lead their people. I'm trying not to say manage their people. I'm it's splitting hairs, but lead their people in such a way that they enjoy their job. People look at me and like, Chuck, when you're on stage, it's like you're slapping everybody in the face. But if you see me in front of my sales team loves me. And the reason why is because they know that I believe in them, I care about them, and I protect them as much as I can. But it's a team. They
It's
have
a
to.
culture shift at a macro level culture
Yeah,
shift. I saw this article recently. It was talking about the medical profession, and it said that doctors are experiencing this. You heard of this?
I
So
know. I think I know where you're going with this. Yeah,
yeah, so the older doctors are saying, "Hey, we're working, 7 nights a month of call," and these young guys in their 30s are coming into the practice, and they're saying, "We're not taking more than two. We're just not doing it because we need work balanced with our families." And the old guys are like, "Wait a second, you mean you could ask for that?" They're
yeah,
like, yeah, how about we just get more doctors on our staff so that everybody has more of a life? So, maybe the sales profession is changing to be a little less like the old what would be the metaphor? Like the sports coaches that are in your face and screaming all the time. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, this doesn't really work, maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't work like it used to. All the yelling, screaming, chair throwing, stuff like that. It doesn't
Machismo.
now. Yeah, it that just doesn't excite people anymore. Now yeah, I have a video that I send out to certain people where I'm getting a little passionate with my folks at Able Roof, and but it's all de- um, it's pre-planned. I never get loud with my team unless it is pre-planned because it usually doesn't go well if it's not.
It's like the old movie, right? We're having a sales contest. First prize, Eldorado Cadillac. Second prize, steak
Steak
knives. Third
knives.
prize, you're fired.
Yeah. And that type of mentality, I will tell you, does not work anymore. It's fun to watch the movies. I love Glenn Ross.
I mean, it's a Tin
But
Man type attitude, right? And
yeah,
it's an evolving world, and I love what you're doing. I like that you're allowing for this. beginner's mentality, building the base competency. You need the step system. We're going to drill you on it. You're going to memorize it. You're going to do repetitions. And we're going to look for signs that you've reached that level of at least basic mastery. And then we're going to help you get into real mastery. I like that mentality.
Yeah, because there is levels to what we do. And then we go pro. And going pro is there's not a lot of folks in our industry that have gone that far. And going pro is truly understanding the close itself and understanding how to listen to the homeowner to actually reply to the homeowner. Even in mastery, we have a hard time listening. We're still trying to figure out what's next, what's next, what's next. But when you go pro, when you know it so well that you can't get it wrong and you can calm yourself down and you can have that calm conversation going into the close with a homeowner, and then they just look at you, it's like, yeah, it's just that it's this time. And when my sales reps go out with me, they're like, Chuck, you make it look so easy. And it's not just because I've been doing it for 20 years. It's because I know it so well that I can literally have a conversation with the homeowner. I'm not talking at them because I have a script that I can't wait to use.
That's awesome. Okay, well, for those who are not as familiar with you, how can people engage with Top Rep? And I don't mean just how can they get a hold of you. I'm sure they can go to toprep.com.
Yeah,
But like, what kind of programs do
topreptraining.com.
you have available? What's available?
So
What's on the
we
menu?
have on Facebook, you can look up Top Rep High Performance Training on Facebook, and it's a free group that you can get into, and we give just a ton of free advice out. The Facebook is probably the best for us. And then second to that would be LinkedIn. So you can look us up on either one of those. And you can always stay current with what we're doing. We have the two boot camps where the sales reps will come out and they learn from zero from pulling up to the customer's house all the way to the closing roadmap, going through all the objections. And then we also take the sales owners, sales leaders and owners into a different boardroom, as we say, and we help them with their best practices, how to give a sales meeting, understanding their true expectations, going through all that. So yeah.
Okay, I just pulled up this group on Facebook. There it is, easy to find. Top Rep, there's the logo, there's the Chuck, there's a guy holding a belt.
Yeah.
What's the belt?
So when you go to Top Rep, it is a competition. So these people compete. We actually had our very first female winner. She rocked it. I mean, it wasn't even close. She did such a good job. It was her second top rep, and you can tell in her sales that she dominates in the sales
Is
world too.
she doesn't happen to be from Gravina Windows, does she?
No, her name's Ashlyn. She's from Hutcherson, is the company that she's with.
Hutcherson. They're a level 10, they're a level 10 client. We do their radio
Yeah.
ads.
Yep.
The reason I ask is I was speaking at a Infinity for Marvin conference earlier this year, and they had their big award ceremony at the Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. And I went mostly for the free food. I wasn't really involved in that particular part of the thing, but their top rep there was a female from Gravina. I don't remember her name. It's a family business, and there's like five of them that are in that family. And she wiped the floor with all those dudes. Wiped the floor.
That's
The
fantastic.
amount that she was ahead of those other guys for second place was amazing. It was awesome. Anyway, Chuck,
Good for her.
as usual, it's a pleasure to have you on here. Any last thing you want to let my audience know while you've got us here?
I just want to let everybody know that we are very happy and proud to work with Level 10. And I mean, we're excited. The professionalism that you guys give your clients and the phenomenal feedback that we get on this side, hearing from your clients, it's fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks, Chuck. You will be on the podcast with me again in 2025. Look forward to that, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.